Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in again. Much appreciated. And I'm heading over to the gym right now and had a few minutes. Wanted to do today's video today. And gonna do it on something that a lot of these videos that I do, guys, it's based upon, I go through the comments on all the videos, and it's based upon some of the feedback I get, some of the overwhelming conversation that's on some of the comments, and had some stuff come up on different types of issues of boat flipping fish. And I want to sort of give you guys a discussion and tell you my opinion on the whole concept of boat flipping and what it's really all about, and sort of give you guys some tips and advice on when and when not to do it. So the first thing I want to say about boat flipping is boat flipping fish has become something that has gained more fame over the past couple of years, particularly amongst the younger anglers. And so I'm going to say right off the bat that a lot of the boat flipping that goes on is due to too much testosterone in the system. It doesn't have anything to do with making the right decision on how to correctly land a bass. There's something about boat flipping a bass that some dudes equate to being manly or macho or some type of alpha male, something like that. So from that standpoint, I just want to start this video out saying you have got to drop all the attitude, all the ego, all the whatever it is that comes into place, thinking that it's just, you know, you're some superior male for boat flipping fish. I mean, because that's just not the way it is. I want to give you guys some real life advice on boat flipping, when and when not to boat flip, because there is a time and there's a time not to. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, that trend again, the trend of boat flipping once again. There's a lot of techniques out there, guys, that are not the best techniques to use, but they gain popularity through different type of social media, and you know, they become trendy. And I put stuff like boat flipping, braid to fluorocarbon, cliches, all this type of stuff sort of in that category. Running balls to the wall across the water, all that type of stuff. It's popular just for the sake of being popular, and the reality of behind it does not match up to that popularity. So for boat flipping, I'm going to give you guys some tips and advice from an old grizzled hogger here who has landed millions of bass, lost tons of bass, landed tons of bass, and I'll give you guys, you know, some stuff that I've learned from fishing for 50 years that will help you get more bass in the boat. First of all, every fish is different. You can't hook a bass and know the time that you hook that bass, how you're going to get that bass in the boat most of the time, because there's a lot of different factors involved with that. Every single bass has to be analyzed as far as when you're fighting that fish, how that fish is going to come into the boat. And the factors that determine that largely are the equipment you're using and the type of cover that you're fishing. That has a big part of it. So I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to start out, I'm going to tell you guys when I think it's okay to boat flip bass. Boat flipping bass is okay if you're in a situation where you got, you know, some fairly heavy tackle. It doesn't have to be super heavy, but fairly heavy tackle in relationship to the size of fish that you've hooked. For example, you know, if you've hooked a 2-pound spotted bass and you have an 8-pound test line, under the right situation, sometimes you can boat flip that fish safely. Or if you've got a 5-pounder and you've got 65-pound braided line, there are some situations where you can boat flip that fish. The times that you want to boat flip fish, and about the only times that I do it, are times where I'm concerned about, if I don't get that fish into the boat, that the odds of that fish getting hung up in some other piece of cover outweighs the risk of boat flipping. So for example, if I'm flipping back into some thick willow trees and bushes and that type of stuff, and I hook a 4 or 5 pounder and there's thick cover everywhere around me, the fish is green, and I know if that fish gets down into the water, it has a chance to get off, then I just put the pressure on that fish and I try to swing it in. simply because I feel that's the correct way to do it. If you set the hook, if you're pitching a jig or throwing a crankbait down an open bare bank and you hook a 4 or 5 pounder and that fish is in completely open water, and you decide that you're going to boat flip that fish just because you think that it's cool to do so, or you got a little too much testosterone running through the system that particular day, that is a risky move to make. I'm not going to say it's a stupid move, because if you get the fish in the boat, obviously it worked, but it's a risky move to make because there's no reason to do that. Because if you hook a bass in open water where you know there's not much of a chance for that bass to get off, I don't care if you got it hooked on a jig or a spinnerbait or a rattle trap or whatever, it's always best to get a picture of how that fish is hooked before you decide what you're going to do with it. And you can't determine that just by visual, because a lot of times your bait can be completely inside the fish's mouth, out of sight, but it may just be hooked by a piece of skin on the roof of the mouth. You don't know, and as soon as you try to lift that fish over the boat, that skin's going to break and you're going to lose that fish. So the first thing that I always try to do is I try to see if I can determine how that fish is hooked, and then that allows me to decide how I want to fight that fish, as far as how much time I want to keep it into the water, if I want to figure eight it, if I want to lead it a little bit, and then I always just reach down there and belly land it or lip it, 95% of the time, because I don't want to take the chance of that bass coming off, being poorly hooked, having the hook straightened out. Maybe there's a fray in my line I don't know about, and having my line break. Guys, you don't know if you pitch into a brush pile or something. You don't know if your line accidentally skimmed across. There could have been like a sharp piece of wood or a piece of rock or something down there that you got a fray. You try to swing a 4 or 5 pound bass in the boat with 20-pound line, and you can still break your line swinging it in. So there's always a risk involved with that. The thing that you want to try to do is determine what is the best way to land that fish that gives you the least amount of risk. And in my opinion, 90% of the time, the least amount of risk involves fighting that fish down, letting that fish wear out, and then landing or lipping that fish. And the key that you want to do it, guys, is how you fight your fish. So the biggest tip I can give you, and I don't really want to go into a fish fighting video because that's another video, but in light of what we're talking about here is making that determination, never let the fish go in the opposite direction that you're wanting to lead it in. If a fish is heading one particular way, like if it's heading down the boat like this, you need to keep leading that fish down the boat like that. Don't try to reverse the direction of that fish if it's going one particular way, because a lot of times you'll reverse the position of that hook, and that's when you lose those fish. So always fight the fish, and that's one of the reasons you see some guys going around the boat in a circle, is because they don't want to remove the direction of that fish. They want to keep that fish coming in the same direction. So if I've got a good fish on, I try to keep it coming in the same direction, and I'll get it up and I'll even figure eight it around the boat, trying to keep that fish in the same direction, trying to wear it out, because I want to be able to get that fish to the boat where I can get my hand underneath its belly and get it into the boat. That's just it's the lowest risk way to land a fish that there possibly is. Guys, right now I'm telling you, the highest risk of losing a bass is boat flipping it. If you're trying to boat flip everything you hook, and you think that I'm going to swing this 7-pounder over the side, simply because you think it looks cool, you're going to get heartbroken one of these days. I can promise you right that. You're going to have your line break. You're going to have that, a winning fish or a key fish come off because of that. So the point of this video, guys, is don't let your ego, don't let your testosterone get in the way of fishing smart and becoming a smart angler, because a lot of that, I think that plays a big role in it. Fish smart, let approach each single fish that you're fighting as an individual fish, and decide whether it's the best way to do it, to flip that fish in the boat or to reach down and belly land it or lip it, because don't just automatically assume you're going to do one way or the other. The only other time sometimes that I'll boat flip a fish, even on a crankbait or something like that, is I've had some fish that have actually jumped by the boat. And if you have the fish jumping in the air and you have that momentum, then you can bring them on in with that. So that's what I'm saying. Every fish, the way they fight's different, the way they jump different. And it's just a matter of experience. It's a matter of hooking and landing and losing some bass to determine the best way. But one thing I just want to leave you guys with in this video, guys, is don't get caught up in the boat flipping. Don't think that you're, don't think that it sounds cool or looks cool in one of your Instagram or Facebook videos to see you flipping a 5 or 6 pounder over the side, because it's going to promise you it's going to turn out to bite you one of these days if you keep doing that. So anyway, quick video, guys. I'm going to get in here into the gym and get some working out done, and we'll hope you guys are doing good, and we'll talk to y'all later. See you.